Kia ora and welcome to Love Literacy Inspired, a podcast where we explore the real stories behind Aotearoa's literacy journeys. I'm Heather Down, founder of Love Literacy and passionate advocate for structured, evidence-based teaching. Each episode, I sit down with inspiring New Zealanders, teachers, parents, advocates, and learners to hear how literacy has shaped their lives, their work, and their hearts. Whether you're in the classroom, at the kitchen table, or just keen to learn, I'm so glad you're here. So let's dive in. And today I am very happy to introduce Dr. Jennie Watts along to the show. She is the chairperson of Lifting Literacy Aotearoa. She's a mother, an academic, and a passionate advocate. So welcome along, Jennie, today.
Thank you very much, Heather. It's lovely to be here.
Oh, awesome. And should we begin with just if you could give you a little introduction to the listeners about you?
Yeah, sure. So, Heather's summed it up really. I am a mum, first and foremost. I'm also an academic, not in literacy. I'm an academic in communication. I teach at AUT and I live out in West Auckland. And I've lived here all of my life. Yep, very happily a Westie. And yes, I'm an advocate around this around neurodiversity. Yes, and
Yeah.
yes, I'm an advocate around neurodiversity and making sure that all children get the best chance to learn to become literate at school.
Yeah, yeah. And can you tell me a little bit about literacy, your literacy journey? So you can, if you want to, would you like to start with your literacy journey? And then perhaps, because I know that the journey within your family has paved a great deal of the pathway forward for the advocacy work that you
Mm,
do. But
yeah.
yeah, can we hear a little bit about your literacy journey and then the literacy journey within your family?
Yeah, sure. Do you mean that, how I learned to read as a child and things like that?
Yeah, yeah. Take us back to how you found literacy as you worked through life.
Okay, well, sure. Looking back, I realised that I learnt to read under what was the balanced literacy approach, and so there was very little focus on phonemic awareness, as far
Mm,
as I can recall. I was very fortunate in that I suspect if we talk about Nancy Young's ladder of reading, then I am somewhere near the top, and
mm.
I was able to pick up how to read, write, and spell relatively easily. However, I notice that because now that I have all this knowledge about how words go together and why things are spelled the way they are, and in fact, the words that I have trouble spelling as an adult still trip me up, and it's because I was never taught. And so I have learned a lot through this process of advocating for kids with dyslexia and helping my own son, just how the English language goes together. And it's been a revelation.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you because I was very similar. Having grown up in the balanced literacy, I very lucky would be near the top of Nancy Young's ladder of reading and writing success.
Mm.
But yeah, the words that still trip me up are the words like deceit and
Yeah.
conceit, the E's and the I's or anything around those because yeah, I agree. Definite is another word that really trips me up. So yeah, very interesting, isn't it? I am definitely a better speller since I've been teaching structured literacy. Um, so you've touched very briefly about your son just then. Can you
Mm.
tell me a little bit more about your son's journey with literacy and what you noticed along the way with him?
Yeah, sure. Okay, well, it's really interesting with our boy because I had a feeling that there was something a little bit different about his brain from quite young, but I had no concept that it would end up to be dyslexia. And I know when he started school, I was particularly nervous around making sure that the teachers kind of could respond to his needs because he was a very sensitive young man and he needed lots of guidance and support. But again, it wasn't around the learning itself. It was just about kind of getting through the day and managing emotions. And I now know that actually sometimes there are these sort of comorbidities, I think is the word,
Mm.
um, with dyslexia, which might mean that sometimes managing emotions and other things can happen, can be there alongside. So we noticed that perhaps he wasn't picking up reading and writing and spelling as other kids his age were. We also noticed that he was increasingly unhappy at school. His anxiety about school became huge, and um, there was a particularly difficult time where there was a teacher who I don't think really um, kind of responded to him in a way that he needed. And when we did ask, what's going on with the learning and the spelling and the reading and writing, the answer that we got was, look, he's a boy, he'll probably catch up. Everyone sort of evens out around age 8 or 9 or something like that.
Mm, mm,
But we were feeling increasingly uncomfortable. And then lockdown happened.
mm,
And he was incredibly relieved to be at home. We were incredibly stressed because we were trying to work at the same time, but he was a different kid, and we booked him in for an assessment. At that point, we decided we needed to understand what was going on with his brain and perhaps whether there was something stopping him from comfortably acquiring literacy the
mm,
way other kids were. We did have the assessment, and it was pretty clear that he has dyslexia. And so those pieces of the puzzle fell into place. But then we had to figure out, well, what do we do about it? How does the dyslexic brain learn? And I read the whole internet, like like many parents do, looking around, and I reached for some things initially that were easy to find that were not right.
mm,
I found some lovely textbooks, one even written in New Zealand, that seemed to sort of be the answer, and we began to, try a few techniques and help him that way, but it wasn't making a difference. And finally, I did hit upon by accident some material produced by a little startup group called Lifting Literacy Aotearoa. They were right at the very beginning um, of their of their togetherness at this point, and I just knew when I read it, because it was talking about evidence, it was talking about science, the way the brain learns to read. I suddenly felt like a weight lifted off, and I knew what the right thing was going to be. That he could be helped, and the relief was huge. But that started us down another path, which was equally as tough,
mm,
which was trying to get other people on board with it, including the school, teachers, and eventually through lifting literacy, helping um, the media and the government and the minister and the ministry to see that this was the right way to go too. So it's been a long journey. It's been very effortful, and I'm I'm incredibly grateful that lifting literacy Aotearoa had begun just when I was needing it. I mean, the timing was incredible. Once I sort of came on board with them and was helping to work on their projects, I obviously had the opportunity to learn a lot more and had wonderful access to New Zealand's experts at that point, and so that has helped me too. But I can very proudly and joyfully say that my son is now reading novels, and he's 12. And we feared at some point that he wouldn't ever want to do that because it was so hard.
mm,
But now that he is doing that, we feel that whole parts of the world have opened up to him that weren't open to him before. And that's because of structured literacy.
mm. Yeah, it's actually it's quite incredible that you have that place of just complete and utter frustration and um, unable to see a pathway forward. Um, and and sort of like looking at that, I don't know, just like what do I do as a parent? Where is life going to move forward? Yeah. So he's been obviously there's been a real shift in the way that his trajectory is going to go.
Yeah, that's right. And we feel that now that he can engage in whatever the world offers him now,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
those things are not
absolutely.
he's not limited by his dyslexia
Yeah.
now. I mean, obviously there is the dyslexia is still there.
Mm,
Structured literacy doesn't solve dyslexia, but it
mm,
does mean
mm,
that that children have a way to acquire literacy that means that they have so many more options in life, and that's wonderful. Yes, and obviously there's been a huge investment in time and love and care and finance, and we recognise that we're incredibly privileged that way too, because not everybody can actually commit those things, all of those things, um, to their children's learning,
mm,
which is one of the things that really spurred me and my colleagues on and learning and lifting literacy Aotearoa, is that actually this has to be a nationwide state delivered opportunity. It can't be just a postcode lottery, you know.
mm,
Um, it's too important that all of our children in Aotearoa New Zealand have this opportunity to enjoy language and engage in their learning this way.
mm, mm,
So that's been one of the principles that's really spurred us on, really. Mm.
mm. Yeah. So yeah, that's yeah. I what I love is the fact that you haven't just come into lifting literacy Aotearoa as, I'm a little bit interested in literacy. You've got an actual lived experience of what it means to, I mean, at the very essence of it, you have the actual lived experience of what it means to lift literacy within the country and what it means. Yeah. And so in your with your current work that you're doing at the moment with the AUT, how does that connect in with, are there any connections through that with the LLA as well? How has that helped you in the role that you've got at the moment?
Well, I think because my area of work is communication, I think that has been a useful element to contribute to the work of LLA. I mean, one of the things that we have found it really necessary to do is to help educate and to provide quality, reliable information, and producing those in a way that's designed for audiences. And sometimes those audiences are different and they need different things. Has certainly been a big part of the work that we've done. Um, I think I should say though that by no means am I responsible for all of those wonderful things that LLA has done. We are a tight group of extremely motivated,
Mm,
um, mostly parents too, all parents, but and most of us have neurodivergent children
mm.
of our own, and I think we're very lucky actually to have come together in the group that we are. Is it okay if I do a bit of a shout out to those
Oh
people
yeah,
that
yeah,
contributed?
absolutely. Go for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, actually, in the very beginning, the petition that was handed to Nikki Kay was written, drafted by Amanda Drum,
Hmm.
and so she, as a parent who's experienced all these kind of trials and tribulations, really kind of began a movement. And then LLA came together as Alice Wilson as our first chair, Bronwyn Bain, an extraordinary um, ex-Treasury policy analyst. We have We have Paula Short, who is a very passionate advocate, again, mother of a child who has gone through very similar things to mine. And Julie Clothier, who was an ex-journalist and comm specialist. So, that mix of us together has been quite powerful. And I just want to acknowledge what an incredible group they are, really, and what an honour it has been to kind of work alongside them all on this journey. Mm.
Yeah. And so what does it mean to be the chairperson of Lifting Literacy Aotearoa? What is it that's keeping you going in the role at the moment?
Well, look, I've taken over the chair from Alice Wilson, who obviously was an absolute star, and so you know, uh, trying to fill those shoes is not easy. But I think what's happened is that now that the government has mandated that structured literacy should be present in learning across primary school, um, that was a huge piece of work that we have contributed to, prior to Alice leaving. And so now there's a real focus on kind of quality assurance and sustainability. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So the work we're quite currently we're very involved in trying to make sure that those secondary kids who won't experience structured literacy in primary don't actually miss out and become yet another lost generation. So we're very focused on kind of holding the ministry to account around supporting those kids before they do leave school. So that's a piece of work we're currently involved in. But we're also very watching closely what's going on in ITE.
Hmm.
Um, it's so important that student teachers in initial teacher education do get exposed to these ideas before they find
Mm.
themselves in classrooms, because this is science. It's not a one and done kind of topic. You actually do need to do some serious learning around how the brain learns to read, what the research says, and how do you actually implement that in the classroom. This is praxis, and so um, we really hope that ITE will pick this up and run with it. And
Mm.
that's something we're looking into at the moment. So, what does it mean to be chair? It means more work. It is it is an ongoing piece of work that, of course, we're doing in this voluntary capacity, and sometimes it's hard, and it's something that we do spend a lot of time and a lot of emotional energy um, staying involved in and keeping up with. And it's important that we do that, because I think we feel, all of us, that if we don't do it, then who will?
Yeah, yeah, I 100% agree with you. And I mean, at the end of the day, like that emotional energy comes from the fact that we're dealing with lives, we're dealing with pathways, we're dealing with trajectories, and I mean, I know that with all of the students that I teach, and I mean, I've only got 30 students that come in front of me each week, but I genuinely care on an emotional level about what is going to happen to them as their future goes on. So yeah, I fully understand that, and I also think that it's really interesting about the secondary schools, which I feel quite passionate about that as well, because what's changed for me over the last 6 months, maybe 6 to 9 months actually, is that a lot of the students that I'm getting in, I'm getting more year sevens, year eights, nines, and tens. And so yeah, these are the students that have missed out on the that early intervention, early literacy, um, and and now they're really struggling with 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 future literacy. So yeah, that has been really interesting as well.
Actually, I should have said too that another big piece of work for us at the moment is getting that intervention situation right in primary
Mm,
schools,
mm,
um, and ensuring that it is, of excellent quality and consistent and delivered equitably. That's a really big thing. So yeah, it's quite a complex picture, and we're
mm,
trying to just keep up with what's going on there, and perhaps give some guidance, or make a pointed point to the right people at the right time around these kind of things.
mm,
Yeah,
mm.
there's a lot going on.
Yeah, there is. And also when you're talking about equity, because we've got socioeconomic factors to take into account, not only neurodiversity, but also socioeconomical, economic, yeah,
Yeah.
medical. Yeah, there are just so many things that that you need to take into account. I totally agree.
Mm, that's right.
Yeah. So what shifts are you seeing in New Zealand at the moment, when it comes to structured evidence-based teaching? Are we making progress?
Oh, I would say wholeheartedly yes.
Mm.
Um, what shifts are we seeing? A huge shift, a seismic shift. I think it's actually really really changing for society and culture. This movement that's going on now, and the mandated structured literacy teaching is, and all the investment in the teachers to make sure that they have the knowledge that they need and deserve to do this well. I think uh, it's really quite incredible. Like I say, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done to make sure that it's delivered equitably and sustainably, and of good high standard. And obviously this has been a huge learning journey for so many. And actually, I want to acknowledge that this has certainly not been an easy thing for teachers and school leaders to undertake. When you have been teaching a certain way for a long time, it's there's a real process of grief, and sometimes some anger about having not had the information they needed all of that time. And so I just want to acknowledge that so many people are working so hard to take on this new information, and really teach in a different way, and what a huge thing that is. And I take my hat off to everybody who's in that situation.
Mm.
Um, it's extraordinary. I'm not a primary school teacher myself. I teach adults, so it's quite a different thing. And I can only imagine just what a big um, and um, energy taking kind of task that
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is, to
yeah.
do the learning while also supporting young young people with their learning is, yeah, it's a big job,
Yeah, so
but
not only are they teaching themselves, but then they have to go into the classroom and pass on the learning. Yeah, it is a massive undertaking.
it
Um,
is.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and I suppose another thing I would say to teachers is, as well as enormous respect, um, that your journey might take some time.
Mm.
It's perfectly normal for it to not all be perfect from day one. You might feel really uncomfortable initially doing these things, um, but that is why the PLD providers, make themselves available to you to kind of check in with. That's why there are communities online to check in with, and by and large, those communities are incredibly supportive, and a wonderful place to get information that you need. So, keep reaching out if you're not sure. Just ask, because everybody's on this learning journey together.
Mm, mm, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think back to when I first started teaching structured literacy, and that was about 6 years ago now. Yeah, about 6 years ago. And yeah, I mean, I've learnt so much along the way. And I'm not discounting that the stuff that I learnt in the very beginning, like I was teaching it really well. But yeah, the journey that I've been on, there's a lot there's a lot to take on board. And I agree with you as well. To start small, start with
Mm.
something small, teach what you know, and then as you do a little bit more research and a little bit more research, then you can bring in these other aspects into your
Yeah,
teaching.
yeah, yeah, that's right. I think you do just have to jump in. I think that's been one of our messages for a few years is just jump in,
Mm,
just do your best, and just think about making sure that you've got a network to kind of draw on to support you. But
mm,
yes, it's really special what's happening, and I'm obviously as an advocate really thrilled to see it.
mm,
Uh,
mm,
yeah, and I know that it's actually that's the other thing is it's such an evolving space. I mean the science is pretty secure,
mm,
but it evolves in sort of a minor way in lots of different ways, and so this is an evolving space, and sometimes that can cause confusion and sometimes a little distress too, as people feel that they're getting mixed messages. But
mm,
just fall back on what is known, what is sure, and do that well.
mm,
And
mm,
yeah, like I say, PLD providers are doing a wonderful job too, I think,
mm,
of keeping up with that evolving research and making sure that what they do deliver um, is what teachers need at the
mm.
time. Mm.
Mm, yeah, absolutely. Do you find that you're still coming across some misconceptions around dyslexia or structured literacy?
Yes, yes, there is. There are around dyslexia. I think there's a misconception that it can be fixed or got
Mm,
rid of, whereas in fact, it's not. It's a brain difference,
yeah.
and it's something that people with dyslexia will always be and have. Um, so there's that. I think. What else is a misconception around structured literacy? There are little niggly kind of misunderstandings around what structured literacy is. I think some people feel that it's, for example, one of them is that people feel that it's going back to a kind of past um,
Mm,
very kind of rigid delivery of phonics instruction. And people think, some people celebrate that and say, oh, good, it's back to the 1950s when we actually taught people to read properly. In fact, it's very much rocket science compared to that.
yeah.
It's this is an incredibly well researched and deep area of scholarship and praxis, and so um, it's really nothing like what was going on in the 50s. Although there might be a common element of some very clear, explicit teaching around phonemic awareness. In fact, structured literacy is a lot more than that,
Mm,
and so bringing all those strands together is kind of important to make sure that you're doing all of them because we know that that's what helps.
yeah, yeah.
That's what makes good structured literacy instruction.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, and I like to think that all my lessons have got an element of fun to them as well. You know,
Mm.
it's not just, yeah, where I mean there are, like you say, there are some elements of the roteness in there, um, but the majority of it is it's all about that delivery as well.
Mm. Yeah, of course
Um,
it is. And
mm,
highly skilled teachers do that really in a wonderfully engaging way, of course. And there's no need to kind of be fearful around that, I don't think. Yeah, it's when you see it done well, it really is very exciting. And of course, kids have a good time when they feel successful, you know?
yeah.
So when they begin to have success with learning, they're going to be that much more engaged and happy to do it anyway. That's just the way we are as humans.
Yeah. Oh, I often think back to when I looked at all of the rules of neuroplasticity, and I actually can't remember them all now, but one of the ones I do know is that when you're feeling good, you learn more. And it's just a basic, it's pretty basic, But yeah, if you're feeling good about what you're doing, there's more chance of you taking in the learning. So
Yeah.
yeah, because the brain isn't in the flight or fright. It's not under stress. It's not, yeah. So yeah. So if you could speak to school leaders, what would I actually had two things here. If you could speak to school leaders or policymakers, but it might be a bit hard to put both of those together. So if you could speak to school leaders at the moment, what would you most want them to hear? And then if you could speak to the policymakers, what would you most want them to hear?
Okay, so around school leaders, I think we would love to see school leaders doing the training.
Mm,
And I know that that's the way that the training is being rolled out and the priorities for that training are not necessarily going to be our school leaders initially. But I think if school leaders could begin to share that message with the ministry that they really need to be on that training as well, because it's quite hard for teachers to do this without the support of that leadership. And so I think any way that the school leaders can support teachers to be learning deeply, to be engaging deeply, and then to be okay to make mistakes, I think will be really valuable.
mm,
And I'd love to see everybody on training at some point if they can possibly get there. So moving on then to policymakers, let's get those school leaders on training, please.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important, and I think we are trying to push levers and buttons around some different elements of policy right now, as I mentioned earlier. But I think we have an urgent situation around our secondary age kids. We have an urgent situation around making sure that the whole system is supporting structured literacy, right from ITE, Teachers Council, ERO, the whole shebang. They all need to be really well versed in what this is about, to make sure that it is sustained and and of good quality as we go forward. It would be terrible to undermine the progress that we've made through misunderstanding, through a lack of commitment, through a lack of knowledge. So we all need to get on the train and really understand what it is that we're doing with structured literacy and how the brain learns to read and the nuance. There is some nuance, and we have to kind of commit to that learning, I think.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you actually committed to the learning too, didn't you?
I did, yes. Yeah, I
Yeah.
took myself, I was very fortunate to get myself onto an IMSLE
Mm,
training course, 5 days in person here in West Auckland, and it was wonderful. Thankfully, it reinforced a lot of the learning that I had done myself, but of course, stretched me and went deeper and much richer into the why and the how.
mm,
And yeah, yeah, I think as a parent and as someone who is in part supporting my own son at home, alongside having a rather wonderful tutor, um, then I think that kind of learning was incredibly helpful to me. But I also get that, of course, many parents
mm.
couldn't commit to that, wouldn't know where to start, and that brings me back really to why it must happen in schools. It must happen in schools, and it must happen with fidelity
Mm.
and with enthusiasm.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So I've still got a couple more questions.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, oh, that's good. So what's this journey like if you think about this journey as a whole, and it's been a long journey because
Mm,
your son is year 8 now. So
that's right. Yeah.
yeah, so it has been a long journey, and I sort of feel like that too. My eldest is 18, but
Yeah.
when you think about on a personal level, what has it taught you about being able to advocate to be heard and to create some change?
Yeah. Well, I think. Um, I think there might be an element in me that was always going to be an advocate for something. And this
I feel
happens
the
to
same.
and this happens to have been the thing that I have landed on, because it's been extremely personal. It's been about my kid, and it's been about all other kids like my kid, and that has really, fueled the fire in me, I think. I think, I also have a little equity role in my professional life. And so I think these kind of principles really do just sit inside of me, and kind of keep me going. Um, I've learnt that advocacy comes in ebbs and flow. There are times when it's very intense. There are times when you've got a lot of energy to put into it, but equally, there are times when you are very flat and you perhaps don't have a lot to put into it, and it can be very uncomfortable when unfortunately the cause needs a lot, but you don't have much to give. And so, yeah, that's when community in this, I think, has been um, my saving grace. I think the fact that we are a group, and um, that if you're having a bit of a lower energy time, perhaps because you're distracted by other things in your life, then others are there to kind of keep up the maintenance of the work, which is, crucial, really.
Mm.
So I think connection and community has been so important. And actually, on that note, there's another shout out I'd like to make,
Yeah.
which is Sharon Skur, who has just been outstanding, an incredible advocate for dyslexia in particular, and then for structured literacy as the way to address that. So, um, and her work has really been defining and hugely important. And as an advocate, she seems to have boundless energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hats off to Sharon. Um, yeah, enormous respect. And yeah, and like I say, that connection, that being able to share information, check our understanding, make sure that we're all learning what we need to learn, because it's been crucial that we kind of keep up with the latest research and understanding of what this is and how it should be in classrooms. And it's a lot.
Mm.
And yeah, look, I hope I've answered the question there, but
Yeah, no, you have. And I did have a little question, a little funny question before I get into and then after that I've just got one more question before we wrap up. But what does your son think about the work that you're doing at the moment?
oh, that's quite special actually. He's actually very proud of his mum, which is really lovely because I'm really
Yeah.
proud of him.
Yeah.
And the effort that he has had to put in with my and him and his father, sorry, me and his father have kind of had to work so closely alongside him to get him to where he is. So that's been a huge effort as a family, really. Um, but we're incredibly proud of his perseverance and his resilience there. Again, ebbs and flows. Sometimes it's been harder and sometimes it's been easier, but it's been a whole family journey. But yes, he's actually really, really proud, I think, of the bit that I contribute, and the feeling's mutual. I think we did not expect as a family to have to go through this. And I say go through because in some ways it has actually there's lots of trauma and grief around it as well. Um, but we are coming to a good place. There's work to be done, but we're coming to a good place. And we can both say that about the parts that we each contribute to this, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I totally agree. Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. And if you could go back and give yourself some advice at the beginning of your son's schooling journey, what would it be?
Trust your gut,
Yes, yes.
and don't be afraid to be that parent.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I think I knew that there was something. There was
Yep.
something. I just couldn't put my finger on what it was, and I didn't have the knowledge,
Mm.
but I knew that there was something. And so just being kind of persevering there and going, don't, talking to people and saying, don't, do you think there's something going on? And finally, reaching out and getting that formal
Mm.
um, assessment was kind of a key moment. But also, being that parent is not an easy thing to be. You sometimes come home, lots of tears,
Mm.
frustration, um, hurt. It's all you feel very hurt, I think, when the schooling system doesn't meet the needs of your kid and you can't find a way through and you're working hard to do that, but there's lots of barriers up and you're really pushing people out of their comfort zone. But at the same time, I'm talking about myself now, I was well out of my comfort zone too. So it was really tough, but to kind of have courage, kia kaha, stand strong.
Mm.
You are your kid's advocate, and without you, um, their outcomes could look very different.
Mm.
So, parents sometimes do have to take on that role, and it's not easy, but it's so important.
Mm. Yeah,
Mm.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. And then just touching back to lifting literacy Aotearoa, where if listeners want to find a little bit more out about the work that you do, where is the best place for them to go?
Well, they've got two options really. Our website is absolutely stuffed full of amazing information. And in terms of our kind of education role,
Mm.
we're very proud of the material that's available there. So, lifting literacy Aotearoa dot. Oh, I
Yeah,
should get this right,
suddenly
shouldn't I?
thinking about that as well. We'll put that in the show notes. Um,
Yep,
yep, lifting literacy Aotearoa. We'll get the web, well, I'll make sure the website's
website.
in there. Yep.
Yeah, and then of course we have a Facebook page too, which is where we engage in current conversation around structured literacy and policy. We let people know what work we're doing there. Sometimes, if we're seeking information from teachers or from parents, we will put a notification or a post up there as well. So, that's quite a good place to keep in touch with. I would say. Um, yeah, so those two places I think are the best way. Otherwise, you're always really welcome to contact us. You can email us on liftingliteracy@gmail.com. Really happy to get your email, even if you're just seeking a bit of information or wondering, if we can point you somewhere. Yeah, really happy to help out with that too. Yeah.
Cool. And was there anything else that you wanted to put out there that maybe I haven't quite asked or that you wanted to explain a little bit more? Is there anything else that you want to share with the listeners?
I think I've probably covered it. To be honest, this whole advocacy sort of side of oneself is can be very big and take a lot of energy, but it's also quite rewarding. Um, yeah, it's. I think perhaps I thought it would be easier to bring people over to understanding structured literacy than it has turned out to be. And so, when you go into advocacy, maybe my advice would be think long term.
Yes, 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 yes.
Think
Yep.
long term goals.
Yeah. Slow burn.
Yeah, slow burn, and probably as part of that, look after yourself. I would say. I think each of us in lifting literacy Aotearoa has needed at times to, um, take a little bit of time to kind of regroup and re-energize. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, yes, and I'd also probably like to just mention that we are very ably advised on technical matters too by our contacts out there in the structured literacy world. So PLD providers, some of whom were really at the very cutting edge kind of 10 years ago
Mm.
on this. And um, the reason that structured literacy is kind of known and has been adopted in New Zealand does come down to those people too. So really grateful to those on our technical advisory group
Mm.
for kind of keeping us up to date and being the experts in the background.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it does take a village.
It
Takes a
does.
village.
It does.
Mm,
Yeah, and I mean New Zealand probably doesn't realize it, but there are some just amazing people out there doing
mhm,
some incredible work. I mean, that's the whole idea of this podcast is to just to showcase some of their amazing groups and individuals out there that are working so hard to help lift literacy. I mean, that's the key thing, isn't it? So yeah,
it
yeah.
really is. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for letting me talk your ear off this morning about it, Heather.
Oh,
It's
I've
been,
thoroughly enjoyed it. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I always say with any of these conversations that it might just be like one little bit or one little section, but somebody somewhere will get something out of it,
mm,
which supports them in their journey. And it might be just one little thing that they decide, oh, I want to find out a little bit more about that, or um,
mm,
this is something I feel passionate about. And so they delve, they do a little bit more research, go down the rabbit hole. I mean, that's the whole idea behind these, is yeah, just to create a little bit more awareness and yeah.
yeah, it's very
Oh,
cool. What a
that's
great thing to do.
oh, well, thank you so much for joining me today. I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation.
Oh,
Um,
me too.
yeah, and I'm sure the listeners have as well. So ngā mihi for joining us today on Love Literacy Inspired. If this conversation did light a spark, please share it with someone who'd love it as well. So you can follow us on your favorite podcast app or find out more at loveliteracymountmaunganui.com. And until next time, keep sharing stories, asking questions, and loving literacy. And thank you so much again, Dr. Jennie Watts, for this morning.
My great pleasure. Good luck, everybody.